Hey guys, welcome to part 33 of Let's Play Pokemon SoulSilver. In the last part we beat the last of the Elite Four, so all that's left to do is to take on the champion, which in this game is Lance. And let me just say this. Oh, this is going to be a rough one. I mean, I've already played it, so this was a rough one. This was not a nice battle. I did not have a nice time doing it. And yeah, you're probably looking down at your, or looking at your YouTube screen, or on the YouTube video, being like, oh, almost 36 minutes. Fantastic. Oh god, this one took me so long to do, this battle, but so straight away he has a Gyarados, which is water flying type, so naturally I was going to use the Fluff and just use a Discharge to take it out because it's 4 times super effective. So I mean, there was no reason to do anything else against this thing or to send out any other Pokemon. I just, because I killed it in one as well, which is pretty nice, and if only all the other Pokemon died that quickly, this battle would have been a lot shorter, a lot more brief. So the reason why this battle took so long is these Dragonites. And I say Dragonites because Lance has 3 different Dragonites. 3 different ones. It's ridiculous. I don't know. It's just so incredibly... I mean, they could have come up with something better. Like 3 Dragonites. It's ridiculous. And each one is actually pretty different. So this is his level 51, which has the moves Fire Blast, Outrage, Hyper Beam, and... ooh, can't remember. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So pretty much his main attack that's really going to mess you up, or that really messed me up, was Outrage, because it's a dragon physical move and it's just really powerful. Outrage actually has a chance of making the user confused if they use it too often, so I mean eventually this Dragonite is going to get confused, but it's still not enough. It still is going to hit you a lot of the time. So what I decided to do was straight away send out Hawkins and use Feather Dance, because I had Feather Dance. Feather Dance is an attack that harshly lowers the other Pokemon's attack, and I was so happy that I had this. I would not have been able to do this battle without Feather Dance, so straight away I sent out the Hawkins to hit it with a couple of Feather Dances, and that was my only intention with the Hawkins and sending Hawkins out first. I didn't think it was going to do any damage against it or anything like that, so my next move was to send out the Fluff once Hawkins died, because Hawkins was... yeah, now that its attack is lowered, Fluff has pretty high special defense, which means that if it attacks me with Outrage, Outrage is now nerfed because of the Feather Dances, and the special attacks won't do that much, which is really cool and really nice. So to pretty much secure the deal that his special attacks won't do much, I'm going to use Charge quite a lot in this battle, because Charge charges up my attack and also increases my special defense. So pretty much when it hit me, I knew that it wasn't going to do that much, because if I hadn't used Feather Dance or anything like that, this Outrage might have killed me, because even though I used a couple of Feather Dances, you can see it still did about 50 points of damage, 48 to be precise. So actually no, yeah, 48 to be precise. So I decided to keep just using Charge, and now that I've used, I thought I better start hitting this thing, because even if I use Discharge, normally Discharge was just, it didn't do that much damage, like nowhere near the amount of damage that I wanted it to do. So one thing you're probably wondering, why didn't I use Thunder Wave earlier? And that's because I knew that it would keep using Outrage even though it's not that great anymore. So I knew that either Static was going to paralyze it because it was using a physical attack, or that Discharge was going to paralyze it. So I thought that there was really no real worth in actually wasting a turn with Thunder Wave, because I didn't think it would do that much. There we go, Safeguard. That's his other attack. It doesn't use Safeguard that much, so that's why I kind of forgot it. So now it's just a case of getting in my, using a Charge, then using a Discharge to take it down, and hoping that Lance doesn't have, or use a full restore before I can kill this thing. And luckily for me, I think against this one it doesn't, but so that was pretty much my plan for this thing. There was no other way I could do this. Looking at my other Pokemon, I don't have anything that's really super effective against this thing. I don't have any Dragon type moves, I don't have any Ice Pokemon, so this is pretty much the only way I found to do it. So that's technically his strongest Pokemon. But that Dragonite is not the Pokemon that I have the most trouble with out of all of them, because obviously the Gyarados I didn't have much trouble with, and then the Dragonite I wasn't really going to have that much trouble with. Or I figured out a tactic to take it down. So right, so this is his second Dragonair, or Dragonite, which has different attacks. It has Dragon Rush, Thunder, Thunder Wave, and Hyper Beam, which is even worse in my opinion. I think there are a lot more worse attacks. Dragon Rush is similar to Outrage, but it doesn't cause confusion, and it's also really it's not as powerful, but it doesn't cause confusion, so he can keep using it, and you know, he can use it as long as he wants. So the reason why I sent out the fluff, or kept the fluff out, because I thought that the fluff would be useful to keep out, because I used about 4 or 5 charges, so I thought it would be a good idea to keep the fluff out, so it was any special attacks that were coming its way it would be fine against. But I kind of underestimated just how powerful this Dragonite's Dragon Rush is. So obviously the fluff died, and before the fluff was killed I sent out Hawkins, because again I had to use pretty much the exact same tactic against this thing as I did before. I just had to keep using Feather Dance and then eventually send out the fluff to take this thing out. That's it, there's nothing else I could have done. There's I think this battle took me about 4 tries to do, because I saved before doing this battle and then just kept trying. With the first or the other attempts I got destroyed. I didn't even come close to beating Lance on my other attempts, but in this one I did. Or obviously I did beat it, or you wouldn't be seeing it. So I got really lucky here because, well, first of all, Dragonite got paralysed when it hit because of static with the fluff, so that meant that Hawkins was always going to go first, so that was nice. And then I got lucky because 2 of the Thunders that he used missed, which obviously Thunder was always going to just kill Hawkins no matter what. Hawkins is a fire type, Thunder is a really powerful electric type move, so it was going to kill it no matter what. So I managed to get in my Feather Dances and managed to, heal up the fluff to bring him back into the game. So once again, it's the exact same thing that I did before. There's not much else I can do. But the main problem with this Dragonite is that it knows Thunder Wave, which is incredibly annoying, because it's cool that this Dragonite is paralysed, but now it's always going to go first, and sometimes the fluff just isn't going to attack because it's paralysed, which is just really annoying, because my strategy really does rely on using charge and then discharge. But if I have, if I use charge and then I'm paralysed, then it doesn't really count. So so after hitting it with that first charge and discharge, I realised that I could kill this thing if I did that combo again, and that this Dragonite wasn't really going to do much damage to me because Thunder wasn't going to do that much. Hyper Beam would have done a decent amount, but it wouldn't have done that much. So I knew that I had some time here, so I spent that time to heal up Hawkins, because I knew when when this Dragonite was dead and he was going to send out his third Dragonite, that I would once again need to use Feather Dance a few times to defeat him. That was the only way I was going to do it, because it was just the only way I could do it. So I decided to heal up Hawkins and then go straight back to the strategy. Although unfortunately for me, this bloody thing kept using Dragon Rush that flinched the fluff. So I decided that because Dragon Rush was actually doing a decent amount of damage to the fluff, to say screw it, I'll just use Discharge and hope for the best. Because Discharge, it still does a nice amount of damage, but of course it wasn't going to kill the thing. And there, Lance uses his first full restore, which is kind of irritating, and I wasn't too sure what to do here at this point. I really just wanted Dragonite to get paralysed again, which luckily for me it does, because as you can see the fluff is now paralysed and really weak. So I decided to try and get a charge in there just for good measure, and luckily for me, when I went and brought my supplies, because I didn't mention this, but before the Elite Four of course I brought supplies, and I always just buy Hyper Potions and Revives, but I also normally buy a few full restores. because you don't need to waste your money on 4 restores if you're just bringing your squad back in between battles, but of course in a battle it's really helpful to have. So that's where one of my 4 restores came in handy, bringing the fluff back to full health, because once again Dragonite can't really do that much to me, but once again it uses bloody Thunder Wave. Oh god, you can see why this battle took a while. It's just kind of a process. This isn't kind of like a complex strategy or 2 minds battling it out to see who's going to be the champion. It's just a process of just trying to get my attacks in, trying not to be killed by this Dragonite, and just hoping it all works out for the best. Really, it's just a massive pain. So one thing I will say is that during these battles, or during this battle, and also during the Elite Four battles, I actually had the stats and moves of all the Pokemon I was fighting up to the left of me. So, you know, I play this on a laptop, so I had my emulator on the right, then all this Pokemon and stats on the left, because there was no way I was going to remember it. I just needed it. I needed to know, especially against Lance, which Pokemon I should use, which attacks are going to be super effective, especially against these Dragon types. So that's actually the first instance that Dragonite used Hyper Beam, which is kind of odd. I would expect Dragonite to use it a bit earlier, and because of the Fluff had used so many charges and all that, and the Fluff special defense is high anyway, it didn't do that much damage, so I managed to heal up the Fluff and then send it, then, you know, finally take out with a discharge. So that's 3 of his Pokemon down, and it's only 11.5 minutes into the video. That's whoop-de-doo. So right, once again, he sends out his Dragonite one after the other. It's really draining, more than anything. It's not like, yeah, let's take down the Dragonites. It's just, ugh, here's another one. So this one straight away pissed me off because it hit me with a Blizzard, and Blizzard is one of those moves that, I mean, it was always going to kill Hawkins, but you know, Blizzard has a chance of missing, and like you saw with Thunder, Thunder missed twice. That gave me a good opportunity. So I decided that I was going to send out E-Rock, because E-Rock is actually, one thing that is weak against Dragonite is Rock, or Rock type moves are super effective here. So my original plan actually was to use E-Rock against these Dragonites, which is why I think he was actually slightly higher. No, I intended him to be slightly higher level than everyone else, so he would be decent against these Dragonites. Of course it didn't work out that way, because I just trained all my Pokemon to level 41 going into the Elite Four, so yeah, so that was actually my original plan, but in one of my other attempts of this, whenever I tried to send E-Rock out to take on the Dragonite, he always got killed some way. But of course E-Rock would have actually come in. It would have been really useful to use E-Rock against the second Dragonite, because the second Dragonite's main attack is Thunder, although one Hyper Beam probably would have killed E-Rock. So yeah, in the end I couldn't use E-Rock, and also Rock, his Rock attack sometimes misses and it's not that powerful, so in the end I decided not to go that route. So yeah, so E-Rock died, which really he did what he needed to do. So I sent out York pretty much to take a hit, because I knew that I just wasn't going to get anywhere if I didn't use, the bloody Feather Dance on this thing. As you can see, this Dragon Rush does so much damage, just brutal how much damage this thing does. So I decided with York, after it took one Dragon Rush, there was no point in switching out, and I couldn't really do any healing, so I thought I'd just hit it with a smoke screen. And because that worked out, I then decided to be a bit more cheeky and heal York right back up to full health, because if Dragon Rush didn't kill me in one, or if I could take one Dragon Rush, then I thought I'd risk it and see if it missed, and as you just saw, it did just miss. So that's pretty much exactly what I wanted, because I thought to take this thing out, one thing that would be really nice if I just kept hitting it with a smoke screen, so it's all smoked out, so it can't attack me at all. Of course this tactic would have came in useful to use E-Rock afterwards, but at this point I completely abandoned the idea of using E-Rock a lot in this battle. I'd already thought, no, it's just not going to work out, so the smoke screens were more for protecting Hawkins, so I could keep York alive, because one mistake I made in one of the other attempts is letting my Pokemon just die, rather than keeping them alive, because once you let too many Pokemon die, then even though I have revives and potions, you can't bring them back, because Lance's Pokemon are too powerful, they just take out my Pokemon in 1 or 2 hits, so I didn't really want to get into that kind of game where I'm just constantly trying to revive my squad, so I decided to keep York alive, and with the smoke screens it protected Hawkins enough so I could get in my feather dances, so I was pretty happy about that in the end. It worked out pretty well, really, because also it's used up its blizzards now, so I decided to take this opportunity to heal up York, because my plan was for Hawkins to die, because that meant I could swap in the fluff and nothing bad would happen to, so nothing bad could happen to the fluff. I couldn't really risk sending in the fluff and have it taking a Dragon Rush or maybe being hit by a blizzard. I just had to kind of keep on going. So I decided to take this time with the fluff being out to heal up my Pokemon, because again, I don't want to get stuck in the game of using revives constantly. So one thing I will say is that I'm kind of sorry about this battle, because I use a lot of items, and I know that some of you out there, or some people in the poker universe, bloody hell, that's a dumb term, I don't know why I just said that, but will probably say that, oh, you're not really doing that well because you're using so many items. But here's the thing, right? My Pokemon are horrendously underleveled. Not horrendously, I'm being, over exaggerating there, but before recording this part I was kind of curious to see how people did this in general. So I went onto YouTube, just typed in, Pokemon SoulSilver Lance Champion Battle, had a look at the few results, and their Pokemon that they used were a lot higher level than mine. Some of them range from like level 45 to level 48, 49. So I mean, I was pretty happy that I was able to do this at all with my Pokemon being this low, because my Pokemon levels range from level 41 to level 43, and I thought that was enough, and it does work out to be enough. But pretty much I'm using this many items so I could do the battle with my Pokemon being this low level, because if I didn't use this many items I would just get trounced, and then I would have to go back to Victory Road and train all my Pokemon up to level 45 and then do the Elite Four again, and I just wasn't really prepared to do that. So yeah, so that's pretty much why I'm using as many items as I have, and I'm really grateful I brought as many items as I did, because I brought I had 35 Hyper Potions going into this, and then about 20-25 revives, something like that. So this didn't go perfectly. I sent out the fluff, and the fluff got paralysed because this Dragonite also knows Thunder Wave. It has the same moveset as the other one, only instead of knowing Thunder it knows Blizzard. So I was kind of worried about this, because it hit me, it made the fluff paralysed, and even though I managed to get it to almost half health here, it was still kind of a bit like, what I should have done, I should have used a full heal to revive or to unparalyze the fluff, just to be safe, because those smoke screens are still in effect. Dragonite's accuracy was still pretty low, but I got pretty lucky because the paralysation didn't get in the way of me killing this thing. So I eventually managed to get in that discharge and kill the last Dragonite. So that's it for all the Dragonites in this battle. We now only have we technically only have 2 more Pokemon to go, and I had more trouble with these Pokemon than I really should have done. Well, I'll stick with this one first. This is Charizard. Everyone knows Charizard is a cool guy, and because he's a fire type, I just thought, right, I'll send out Mega Dude and just hit it with a Waterfall. I wasn't too sure if I was going to use Surf or Waterfall, and I actually kind of considered this for a while, because Mega Dude has higher attack, but Surf is higher, actually has higher power, so I wasn't too sure which one would actually technically do more damage. I think Surf would have done more damage, but I decided to hit him with a Waterfall, which didn't even do half damage to this guy. It didn't even get him down to half health, so straight away with the fluff dying, I was kind of worried about exactly what was going to happen here. So I sent out York because I needed to revive Mega Dude, and well, actually I decided to hit it with a smoke screen to be kind of cheeky, try and use the same strategy as I did with the third Dragonite. Unfortunately for me, it uses Air Slash, and that it flinched York, which is incredibly annoying. It's the last thing I wanted to happen. Anything else would have been better, but oh well, what are you going to do? So I decided that because Mega Dude clearly couldn't take the hits and was clearly going to get killed, that I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I can't actually remember at this point in the game which I went with. Yeah, see, it's hard. I was just staring at my screen being like, God, what am I going to do? I can't lose now, not at this point. So I think, what do I ultimately do? Oh yeah, that's right. So ultimately I thought my options were use a full restore on the fluff and then send that in. Use a revive on Mega Dude and send that guy in. Or heal York, because I decided to heal York because I thought that Air Slash did about half damage, so I was kind of being a bit cheeky here. And what I was hoping for is that one time Air Slash would miss or not do as much damage for some reason, so I could then get in a smokescreen. But of course that's not how things turned out. This is how things turned out. Bloody Air Slash hit it. I got hit by a critical hit, and there goes York. So that's what I get for being so cheeky, I suppose. But I mean, you know, what are you gonna do? You gotta be a bit cheeky sometimes. What this means is that where I could have revived Mega Dude or something like that, I kind of did waste a turn or waste a few turns and a few hyper potions. But so really, I was like, okay, so I need to take down this Charizard. How am I going to do it? I thought Mr. Sublime would be a good choice because he hasn't shown up in this battle, and I knew that Psychic would just be really strong and powerful no matter what. Charizard wasn't it wasn't going to be super effective, but then it was going to be pretty decent. So as you just saw there, Psychic did a nice chunk of damage, not as much as I would have liked. So I decided instead that because Mr. Sublime was obviously going to die the next turn, I wouldn't be able to use a Psychic because Charizard was quicker than Mr. Sublime, which I think is kind of crazy. I guess Charizards are really quick, because one of the reasons I sent out Mr. Sublime as well, because it was really quick. Mr. Sublime has high speed, so I thought that I'd be able to get at least 2 hits on this thing, you know, and if I did manage to get 2 Psychics on it, I would have defeated it and it would have been fine, but no, that's not the way it worked out. So I decided to send out E-Rock as like a cannon fodder, just so I could heal up my other Pokemon, because I knew that I thought that E-Rock could take the hits, and it did take the hit, and it took as many hits as it needed to take right here, because Air Slash didn't kill it in one, but I would have kind of liked it to have been stronger than this. And once again, it's because E-Rock hasn't evolved. If E-Rock had evolved, it could probably have taken 2 Air Slashes, but no, not today, I guess, or whatever. So I decided to heal Mr. Sublime because I thought, A, Mr. Sublime could do the job. Mr. Sublime, you know, had another Psychic in him, so I knew that Psychic was going to kill this thing. And B, what was the B anyway? I'm not sure. Also, I thought B, that Mr. Sublime would be useful for the next Pokemon as well. It would just be useful to have Mr. Sublime alive out of all of my other Pokemon, because I didn't think Mega Dude would come in that handy. So that's the Charizard taken down, and this... Oh, also there's a move called Roleplay, which I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't want to know what that is. Okay, I looked it up, but it's one of those pointless attacks that they try and throw in new attacks every generation, and some of them are kind of cool, and then some like Roleplay are just ultimately pointless, and you don't really want to use them. So his final Pokemon is an Aerodactyl, which is Rock and Flying type, and this is the one that took me the longest to take down, just because I got stuck in this... You know, I mentioned earlier about getting stuck in that game of just using Revive to heal your Pokemon. You know, you send in one Pokemon and then you use a Revive on a different one, but then that Pokemon gets killed, so you send in another one, then you use another Revive on a different one, and trying to play that game. So I straight away sent out Hawkins because I wanted to hit it with a Feather Dance, but it's straight away instant killed by a Rock Slide, and I was kind of hoping that it was going to be a critical hit, because then it would be like, okay, if I hit up Hawkins again and then send it out there, I could hit it with a Feather Dance and it'd be pretty cool. Unfortunately for me, that wasn't the case, and it actually did just legitimately kill it in one because of its high attack. So I sent in Mr. Sublime because I knew Mr. Sublime, or whatever Pokemon I sent in, it was going to die. So I thought that I actually really didn't need Mr. Sublime for this one, or that the Fluff would be more useful than Mr. Sublime. So then, this is the point in the battle where I was like, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose this. I only have 2 Pokemon left. It's the 2 Pokemon I would want alive, but they're not going. They're both damaged and injured. So I sent out. This was this was just silly. I sent out Hawkins and tried to use another Feathered Dance. My reasoning and my only hope that I had for it was that maybe Aerodactyl could miss, because the thing is, I was looking at Aerodactyl's moves at the same time, and every single one of his attacks, or 4 of them, are physical moves. So it's pretty much crucial that or in my head I was like, it's crucial that I use Feather Dance on this thing. If I can get just 1 Feather Dance on this thing, everything would be cool, and its attacks will just be pretty much useless, or it will give me enough of a chance to actually try and, you know, attack it back or try and do something against it. So when I saw that it used Rock Slide, which was super effective, but it really didn't do that much damage, I was like, hold on, I'm back in the game here. This is the point in the battle where I knew that I could actually do something here. So Aerodactyl really could not do that much to the Fluff, which was pretty useful. So I decided to take this time that I knew that if I used a full restore on the Fluff, then I would have enough time to heal back my squad, and that's exactly what I did. The reason I healed back E-Rock is because I thought, because of all of its attacks are physical, maybe E-Rock could have taken 1 hit, like even at high health. I was hoping that maybe it could take 1 hit from this Aerodactyl to give me more time, but then when I realised the Fluff could take hits, I was like, oh well, I'll actually heal Hawkins back up and try and do it that way. I mean, my biggest mistake here was trying to use Feather Dance the whole time. What I really should have been doing is, with the Fluff, try and hit this thing with a Discharge. Or a much better strategy would have been send up the Fluff, use a Discharge, then when it hits me with a move, maybe use a Charge or a Thunder Wave. Well, it's already paralysed, but... So if I kept healing it after it got hit, it would have eventually worked out, because Aerodactyl is a rock flying type, which means that electric moves are super effective against it, which I didn't really realise. I mean, well, I knew that was the case, but I didn't realise Discharge did as much damage as it's eventually going to do. I just didn't realise that was the case. So I decided to send an E-Rock and hope that my theory of it being able to take a hit was correct, and it was. So it only got down to 25 health, or 25 HP, so I healed back E-Rock up so I could do a similar thing that I just did with the Fluff, as in use the time that E-Rock was out to do different things. Another strategy that would have been pretty smart is to heal York back up and then use smoke screens against it to try and make it miss against Hawkins, and then or something, you know, just to try and get it to miss. So with E-Rock, another reason why I healed up E-Rock over the other Pokemon is because of this attack Explosion, which is an attack that kills the player but does 250 power. I think I already mentioned it in the last part, so that did a ton of damage. That actually did a lot more damage than I thought it was going to do, because I expected this Aerodactyl to be able to take hits. Or in my head, I kind of thought that this Aerodactyl was going to be able to take hits as well as the Dragonites did, because the Dragonites could just, they were tanks, they just took so much hits, so much damage, and just shrugged it off, and they were fine. So with Aerodactyl being paralysed, I saw this as my perfect opportunity to then hit it with a Feather Dance. As you can see there, it just lowers the attack so much. Rock Slide killed Hawkins in 1 before, and now it, after 1 Feather Dance, it does half damage, and then after another Feather Dance it, you know, lowers Hawkins down to 19. So I decided my best bet wasn't to try and attack with Hawkins. I hit it with another Feather Dance because my thinking was that Aerodactyl was paralysed, so I could have sent in the Fluff, hit it with Discharge and killed it, because after the explosion, but I thought I don't want to risk losing this, which is why I sent Hawkins out. Because I assumed at this point that Lance was out of full restores, because as you can see, you know, Lance would have used a full restore by this point. That was kind of my thinking there. But it turns out he did have 1 more full restore, so the fact that I used, you know, use Feather Dance on this thing was definitely the smart thing to do here, because it means that this Aerodactyl now can't do that much damage to me, and I can just send out the fluff and just hit it with discharge until it dies. I mean, I could have killed this thing a lot, you know, sooner with the fluff if I kept hitting with a discharge, but I kind of messed up there. But you know, you do what you do, as I like to say, none of the time. So Rock Slide, with Rock Slide not doing that much, and even though Aerodactyl is faster than me, I hit it with another discharge and killed it. And that's the battle, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. That's how to defeat the champion if you have an under-level squad and if you don't mind being a little baby when it comes to the items. So, yeah, that's the champion battle. It's kind of it's not a bad battle, but yeah, like I already said, it's kind of disappointing that he literally a half of his squad are Dragonites. I mean, it's kind of interesting because they're all different Dragonites, and they all have different properties. Like one of the level 49 ones is quicker than the level 50 ones, so I think that's pretty cool. But again, it's still just 3 Dragonites, and yeah, so that means that I am the champion of the world, and people should respect the words I say and think I'm a cool guy. So yeah, so Professor Oak is like, "Yo, Tom, great job." Nice. And then Mary, whoever she is, I was like, why is Mary here? Apparently she's a reporter trying to report on the story of you beating the champion, which is, I mean, I guess is a nice idea, but I was just like, who's Mary? Why is Mary here? I take out the R and May? Is it May? It's not May. I don't think it's May. I've never seen her before in my life, so yeah, here's the great moment itself, me being declared new league champion. Ah, it's just so satisfying. There's no surprise rival battle here, and I think it's actually quite cool that the final battle is actually against Lance. I think that's kind of a nice idea, and that has been upgraded. So here's my squad. We got the Fluff, probably my most useful Pokemon here, and definitely Ampharos is like an obvious choice when playing this generation. And Typhlosion, now that once York evolved into Typhlosion, it was awesome and did help out because it learned Flamethrower. Asurul, I mean, Mega Dude is just awesome, so I mean that's all I need to say about that. Wasn't that useful in these Elite Four battles, but it's still awesome. Mr. Sublime, which was a Pokemon I was not planning to catch at all, but of course Psychic really came in useful with the first few Elite Four members. We got E-Rock, which is a Graveler, which is, again, I don't want to go on about it, but it's kind of annoying. I kind of wanted to go on them, but... And then Hawkins. Actually, all of my Pokemon did come in useful in some shape or form during the Elite Four, because I know that in my Pokemon Power Let's Play, I had Gandhi, I called it Gandhi, and I didn't use it in the final battle, but I used all my Pokemon, so... Yeah, League Champion! Congratulations! Only took me 18 hours, and those last 2 or so hours were just training, pretty much. 2 or 3 hours, I think, but they were just kind of training up, because, well, this is actually only the first half of the game. This isn't, well, about 2/3, I would say, of the game. That's why I completed this game so quickly, because the other Pokemon games, it's like the original, or the quest up to getting the 8 gym badges is a lot longer in this game, and there's a very special reason why it is a lot longer. So here we have the credits, and I tried to skip the credits because I don't quite want to do the credits yet, but I have to say they're pretty cool credits. Of course, cool is probably the wrong word, because I mean it's got dancing Pokeballs. I mean that's not cool, that's just what they're doing, I guess. And then Lyra's in it, so how cool can it really be? I mean, it's not that great. And yeah, dancing Blossoms. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Yeah, it's not that cool, but I like seeing all the little sprites, or the sprites of your characters actually walking around. And something, yeah, you actually see a whole flock of Hawkins, or I should not call them that, of a Pidgeotto just fly by, which I think that's really cool. But so I'm not actually going to go into detail about my thoughts of the game. In fact, I'm not going to stick around for the credits, I'm afraid, because like I said, this isn't the end of the game, so I'm not going to do the whole credit thing where I give my opinion of the game and talk about my thoughts a bit more about it. I mean, you guys should already know a lot of my thoughts about this game. I've been talking about it long enough, so yeah, so I'm not going to stick around for the credits, so join me next time for part 34 of Let's Play Pokemon SoulSilver for the Nintendo DS, where the quest is far from over, kids. I can't really do that voice, but I wish I could one day. Yeah, the quest is far from over. We still got a lot of stuff to do, so in the next part we will start the next part of the game. So see you guys next time.